evening and welcome to another exciting show. Now, tonight we have, well, we're really honoured tonight because we've actually got creator of the universe, Red Queen of the universe, who owns her own country, and she actually, between her friends, she runs Being Believed Research. It's a great honour, ma'am, to have you. Deborah, Her Royal Highness Deborah L. Hatswell, and of course we also have His Royal Highness from Barbados, the People's Republic of Barbados, and that is El Presidente. A great honour, sir, to have you.
Now, I've obviously been promoted, Chris, which is really nice. You know,
you promoted yourself, didn't you? and of course,
don't forget pay rise along with it.
Yes, and actually, Fockham currency. I'll send you. Send you a few bob through the post. All right.
Yeah. Because we got Fockham dollars.
Fockham free finance, and of course myself, His Royal Highness of Fockham Hall, the smallest country in the world, unless you know differently. Now, I'm going to do a few call outs before we start the program. So, yesterday I was actually at Stand in the Park in Cheshunt, and I've got a little confession to make. If any of you from Stand in the Park at Cheshunt, and I might say hello to the town crier, hello, and a few other people, and very nice people. And we noticed, you see, where the Stand in the Park is, about a couple of hundred yards from us is the public lavatory, and the other way is the cafe. And we noticed that people, when they went into the lavatory, they kept putting their muzzles on to go into the loo, which is a little strange. Well, what we didn't know is the night before I had an absolute strong Indian meal, and I visited there just before the Stand in the Park. So that would actually give away the reason why people were putting masks on before going to the loo. Sorry, a little crudity there. Now, to kick the program off, we're going to speak tonight at the title of the program is, I don't know, there's something out there going on. It's a mystery. Now, we're going to talk about time slips, coincidences, and it's going to be chat room led like last week. So we don't know what direction this program is going to go in. It's up to you in the chat room. So before I start, it's really hotting up in the chat room. I'll read a few out in the chat and then we'll go over to Deborah. Is that okay, Deb, John? Is that all right?
Okay.
So we've got Louise Wilcox. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Louise.
Sean Hamer. They won't let me let us down. Evening, folks. There's no pressure then. And then we've got Kevin Keener. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Kat Holsworth. Hello, Chris, John, and Deborah. That's good. You're on time tonight, so no lines for you this week.
Okay.
Evening, ladies. New World Order is a bit short-sighted, you know.
Evening, young lady.
We got Town Crier. Okay. Hello. Yes, you know the reason why they're people putting the masks on before they go into the cars. You know. So sorry about that. I didn't say anything about the Indian meal before. Too much info, Chris. Yes, I agree with you. Then we've got Blank Wall. Evening all. Aunt Sally. Good evening, everyone. I've got to go out, so I'll look forward to watching this show on catch up later. Oh dear.
How very dare you.
Enjoy you, mate. Then we've got evening, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, that's very nice. That's from Gillian Morgan.
Oh, hello, Gillian. How are you doing?
That's Her Royal Highness as well. And we've also got here Yorkshire Rose, newbie here. Hello, everyone. And we've got, of course, Jobby Dodger, who I think...
Nothing wrong with being a Yorkshire Rose, let me tell you.
Good evening. So there we go. Now over to you, Deb, because you've got something rather interesting to tell us.
Strange coincidences. And the lady in the chat who's the Yorkshire Rose, I'm the Lancashire Rose. I'm from Lancashire in the UK. And there's a small area just on the edge of Manchester that used to be a plague field. In the 1500s, it was a plague field where they buried the dead and things like that. And then there was a mansion built on it in the 14th century, a wooden mansion. And that stayed there until about the 18th century, and it was burnt down, and an Edwardian home went onto it then. Well, there was a number of strange experiences in the park where people had seen or observed really weird looking creatures. People would be having time slips, other people would be just in an area that they knew really well and then suddenly didn't know, or as you said before, or they don't know the area and they suddenly feel like they've been there their whole life. And I wondered why there, what was specific about that area. So in the early days when I started to research, one gentleman who pops up a lot for me was John Dee, the alchemist, who was Elizabeth I. He had a hair, he was the confidant, and him and Edward Kelly used to scry, and one of the things they would use to scry was obsidian. So they would use like an obsidian mirror or an obsidian rock. And the area that I saw the really strange creature in, and that other people saw the really strange creature in, is an area where John Dee was known to summon tall, hairy demons. So that was one part of it. And then there's another area. Does anybody remember the Krypton Factor?
Yes.
And they used to have an assault course. It's up on Holcombe Moor, not too far from me. So a number of reports came in of these really strange creatures that people were seeing. And we went up there, and I'm talking to one of the local husterians, and he said, John Dee did a bit of summoning here, don't you? This is when Elizabeth got sick of him. She sent him up to Manchester. They said it was a place without God and was swamps. So she sent him, she had done with him, and she sent him up here, kind of thing. So the two areas, when I look at them, are end to end on the ley line. So you've got the top of the ley line here is the Holcombe reports, and the bottom of the ley line here at the bottom is the Bulow reports. And John Dee crops up in between them all. And I realised that obsidian, what he was using to summon, outside this house, there was a huge, like a boulder, probably about 5 feet high, that was made of pure obsidian. And I wondered if there was a coincidence that John Dee, I don't really know, I'm not putting it into words correctly, but he's popped up time and time again for me. And then I find out that my mum's moved to this home, built in the 14th century, and have a guess who stayed? No one else but John Dee. So if anyone out there and he knows John Dee and they could give me a few more places where I might find stuff out about him, I would be very, very grateful, because I'd like to learn as much about him as I possibly could.
007, wasn't it? Because
that's
where Fleming
was the original 007.
Yeah, original 007. Yeah.
But his synchronicity, he kind of just, I'll be doing something, or I'll be somewhere, and he'll suddenly be discussed, or he'll be on a board somewhere, someone's talk about him, or I'll see a book that's about him. Just really strange synchronicity with John Dee.
Have you ever found that if you're trying to avoid somebody, you'll always bump into them?
Yeah.
That's another weird thing that I've actually found. But I think you've got quite an incredible one, John, haven't you? Where you were telling me the other day.
I've got a couple. They didn't happen to me, but the ones that I know of. Yeah, yes. The first one concerned this is going back to the 70s. I think it was in Manchester. I'm not absolutely certain. I used to live in Manchester in the 70s, or near Manchester in the 70s anyway, and this is where I picked it up from. This young guy, policeman in his 20s, going out on the town in Manchester. I think it was Manchester, but it doesn't really matter where it was. That's irrelevant. Get on with the story, John. And him and his mates, they went to the pub, like you do. We met a gang of girls, and they swapped phone numbers with the girls, and they arranged to ring each other one night the next week or something. And he happened to be on night shift one night, and he went past this factory, and he noticed a light on in the window in one of the offices. So he tried the door, and it was open. So he went in, and then he found his way to this office with the light still on. He had a good look around, couldn't see anybody. So just as he was leaving and switching the light off, the phone rang on the desk. And so he went and picked it up. Hello, yeah. And this little voice said, hello, is that, I can't remember what his name was, let's call him Ian. Hello, is that Ian? And said, who's this? And it was the girl who it swapped phone numbers with from the pub the previous weekend. And he said, well, how did you know to phone me on this phone? And she said, well, this is the number you'd written down. And she read it out to him. And he'd obviously been a bit drunk and he'd written the wrong number down. It just happened to be the number of that office where he was at that exact moment in time. He was only in there 30 seconds at the very most.
Right.
You know, and he'd actually written the wrong number down. It just happened to be the number of that place where he was investigating the light being on. I mean, that's just
wow, that's bait, that, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I don't know whether they got to, they became life partners or whatever. I don't know. But that's a real. And another one. It concerned a guy. I think he's from Oxford. Not that it matters. He was going on holiday to Devon. And he went in a second-hand bookshop in Oxford to buy some reading, to buy something to read while he was away on holiday. He's just going to go and relax and have a quiet time reading in the countryside. So he bought this book and he put it in his case and off he went. And he went to this place in Devon, and it was like an old country house hotel. And he got into his room. He unpacked his suitcase, opened the book, went and stood by the window and opened the book, and out of the book was a picture postcard that fell on the floor, and it was of that exact same view where he was stood in that window.
Wow.
And didn't even notice there. It's just incredible, isn't it?
I have a strange. Sorry,
I think it's the universe trying to sell us something, or the universe, synchronizing itself.
I interviewed a couple from Staffordshire, from an area called Stone in Staffordshire, and he won't mind me using his name. His name was Ant. And he said when he was a boy, we would have been about 7 years old, the long summer holidays. Yeah. He said, we went to visit my mum's friend that lived in, if anyone knows Stone, it's very rural, very narrow country lanes and things like that. So he said, we went to visit my mum's friend, and on the way back, as we're driving back, he said, he looked out of the car window, and what he described as almost like a minotaur. So it's very tall. It's the daytime, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, very tall. He said it had almost like horns on its head. It was big and thick and muscular. And he said it was standing right in the middle, so that as they drove, they had to kind of bend to pass it. And he said it was giving off this kind of arrogance, this almost, he said it felt like it was meant to see it. But he said, Mum, can you see that? And she said, no, I don't. So only the boy saw it. He said when he was about 14, because he lives in the area, they'd gone to meet some girls. And while they were on the way to meet these girls, him and his friends saw it again. And he said that was it. It never happened again. He never ever saw it again. So he'd speed all the way back to about 6 or 7 years ago. And he met his now partner. And he said, when you have the conversation where you do what's the strangest thing that's ever happened to you? He said, well, I asked that. And she said, well, it's funny you should say that. When I was 18, I got my Ford Fiesta for the first time, and I'm driving with a boy in the car, and we're down Stone Lane in Stone, and out from the hedgerow steps this thing, and it had flaring nostrils like a horse. She said, I couldn't tell if it was a horse or a man or a minotaur. It had something on its head. It was incredibly broad shoulders, and it was very, very black. And he said, that's what I saw. That's what I saw when I was a boy. And they'd kind of come together at the end of it, which I thought was amazing. So I actually interviewed them. They let me tape it and share it. And you can hear them both talking about it. You can hear the doubt in their voices, because he's still doing that. Did I see that? Did that happen? But yeah, they've both seen the same thing in the same area, just years and years apart.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Shall we go over to chat, because some people really some very interesting things in there, and we've got here from there it is. Hi everyone, thanks for the tip on ranking water filters last week. I think that was Kath gave that. And regarding the incident with the lavatories, yes, I thought it was rains. How polite, Mr. Town Crier. Thank you. He didn't notice it. That's good. Shh, don't tell anybody. Hi, Chris, Debs, everyone. That's Angela. And then we've got some real. This is regarding John Dee. He designed a 7-pointed star. That's rather interesting. And then we've got a question for you, Debs. What does Deb think? This is from Paul Green. What does Deb think about the large number of drownings in the canals in Manchester?
I'm talking about
in the last few years.
Yeah. When I first started looking into the case, I'm actually mid-book. I'm writing it up at the moment. I was also under the impression that it started a few years ago, probably about 2006, 2007. So I've been researching it now for about 10 years. And what I found out is, and this is startling, that we only count the missing or the dead if they are actually in the River Irwell itself, in the Bridgewater Canal, as it's called. And it goes all the way to Liverpool. But we only count the missing and the dead within the 10-mile radius of Manchester city centre. So if you start to look at the 5 rivers that run into that main river, there are missing men between the ages of 17 and 54. And there's even a block, there's 17 to 36. And then it jumps to early 40s to like 50, around 55, 60. We've had single feet pulled out where the police have said there's no suspicious circumstances whatsoever. How do you know? When we got the foot. And it's not just males, believe it or not. It's females as well. And those missing females don't make the papers. There was one lassie who went missing in 2019. They found the bottom half of her right leg, so from about mid-calf down. And they declared that there were no suspicious circumstances whatsoever. How you do that with nobody, I don't know. A year later, Chris, another limb comes floating down. So they go 20, 30 miles upstream and they find the bin bags with the body parts in. And it is still no suspicious circumstances, and it's not in the public interest to know. There are locks on that canal where boys have systematically, every 3 months, been thrown in and drowned. There's a very recent case on a gentleman is the wrong name, a monster named Reynard Sinaga. And he did over 140, I don't want to say the word online, but let's just say what he would do was he would target males that were a little bit drunk. And he'd say, oh, don't worry about it. Come back to my flat and you can phone a taxi from my flat. And then he would say, have a soft drink or have a coffee. And he'd come across as this really shy, unassuming man. And he would drug them and do what he wanted to them. Now, I thought if there's any more after him, straight away after him, because there's got to be more than one killer, because they can't all be just the one man. But Sanaga himself, if you're looking at, they can prove 140 victims. When I went to find out where his flat was, it was right over the place where the boys were found systematically over 3-month periods. And you could have just pushed someone from the balcony and that they would have ended up in the canal. And the Manchester police made a statement in the newspaper saying there is no Manchester pusher. There is not an enormity of missing males along the Bridgewater Canal, and there is. But something else that might surprise you, it's not just Manchester. There's Bury St Edmunds, York, Durham. There are a number of places around the country where missing males just vanish along our walkways. And 99%, New Forest again, there was 1 foot inside a sock, inside a trainer, and that was no suspicious circumstances. So there's thousands of them.
That
body that was found in a tree. Sorry, John.
Sorry, Chris. I was just going to say, just a slight aside, that just reminds me, I did a very in-depth investigation into Diana's death many years ago. And it just reminded me of the instance where the guy, whose name I forget, because my brain is just turning to mush as I get older. James Anderson. It was a French paparazzi guy, and it was him that drove the White Fiat Uno, the infamous White Fiat Uno, the tunnel at the same time. Well, he was found dead in his burnt-out car with 2 2 bullet holes in his head, and it was ruled a suicide. That'd be good, wouldn't it? How do you manage to shoot yourself twice? That's pretty impressive, that, isn't it? Shoot yourself twice in the head.
It astounds me. It absolutely astounds me. But we were talking about coincidences, weren't we? And this is a coincidence for me. I've been working for 18 months behind the scenes with a chap called Ian Wood. And we've actually been looking at how many missing males there are in each area of the country and mapping them. And I'm also working with a chap who lives near Delamere Forest in Cheshire. So over the last 18 months, Ian's had a number of strange phone calls. He's had phone calls at work. He's had a blue car that will turn up when he's out researching, even if he's not told anybody where he's going. The same bloody blue car turns up, but it's always there before him. It's just it just can't be. I said to him, I could understand it if you went to the same place over and over again. But 1 week he'll be in Reading, another week he'll be in Cheshire, another week, and this bloody blue Volvo turns up all of the time. And it just seems to continue. And about 3 months ago, he was sent an envelope, posted through the door, not through the postal system, through the door that had a white powder in it. And we think it was intimidation, you know. And I said, all along, I'm thinking, right, I've got to look at it like that, but I need to keep my options open. I can't just, you know, jump on the bandwagon. The other chap that I'm working the case with, he's in Delamere. 3 days later, goes into work, and his bosses said they got photographs of him because he works for the Woodland Trust. He can get into areas that we couldn't get into because he can get into the private land. Someone's been out and taken photographs of him out there doing the research, giving them to his boss. And they said, because you've used a works van, then you do it again, we'll sack you.
Well, his phone calls and emails, etc., are obviously being monitored, aren't they?
Got to be. So when's it going to happen to me? I just packed up, but everything that I've got, I backed up, and I made sure they had a backup of the backup of the backup, because they've had the channels taken down. They've been complete. You threaten with your job; it's your livelihood, isn't it? You know.
My website's been cyber attacked. That went down a couple of weeks ago, but the thing that gets me, this sounds very similar to what you're saying. I've been, as you're talking, I've been. Sorry, I hope you didn't think I was rude. I was trying to find his name and I couldn't. There's a chappie. I'm sure somebody in chat put his name down. In America, he's an ex-police officer, and he's finding an extraordinary number of people, women as well, but mainly men, that's going missing in the national parks, and it's always next to rivers.
I know it. It's David Powell IDs.
Sorry?
His name's David Powell IDs.
That's the name. That's the one. David Powell IDs. And it seems to be a very odd thing. And also search parties go out, and these are real skilled trackers, and they don't find a thing, and all of a sudden the body turns up. It's right under their nose where they.
I mean, look at the Martin boy. One of his famous cases is more beyond coincidental. The young boy goes out with his family to the national park. Can't remember his first name, last name's Martin. They're out and they bump into another family whose last name are Martin. And the second family kid said, "Do you want to come and play hide and seek? Come and play hide and seek with us." So the kids run off and they do hide and seek. Everybody comes back except for this little boy called Martin, you know. So when you look at it, you look at the two cases, there's so many, but nobody was never investigated. They did search the grounds and things like that, but it's still missing to this day. They found his shoe hundreds of yards away within the bush, but somebody must have picked him up and run off with him. But if you ever look into it, it's called the Martin case. Look for 411. If anyone's in the chat and they're really interested in looking at it, the 411 files. And he's, let me look it up on there. I'll get it up for you. It's, I think it's Donald Martin, but I want to be 100% sure. And then you guys can go and have a look at it for yourself and see what you think. There was an enormous number of coincidences. And I think that was the case that set David off. I think that was one of his early cases, and he's done an amazing amount of work.
The first indication I ever had, the first sort of signal I had that there was weird things going on in the Disney parks in America was went out to dinner. It must have been the late 90s because I was just getting into this stuff. So it must have been the very late 90s. I went out to dinner with my wife, and we went to some friends. I was invited us round, and we were chatting away like you do over dinner, having a few glasses of wine. And then all of a sudden they said, "Oh gosh, I forgot to tell you. You know, so and so." I knew them vaguely. He said, "Yeah." She said, "Have you heard what's happened to their children?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, they went to Florida on holiday, went in one of the Disney parks, and one of the little girls, two little girls, one of them just disappeared." And of course, they were distraught. They were running all over the place looking for it. And then this lady came over and said, "Look, I'll look after this girl while you go and do what you need to do. Go and try and find the other one and inform who you need to inform." Blah blah blah. And then when they got back, the other girl had gone as well. She'd taken, so they had to come back eventually after a few days with neither of the children. And as far as I'm aware, they never saw them again. And that was the first inkling I had that there was evil going on in Disney parks, because there certainly is. I mean, Walt Disney was an occultist, a Satanist, practicing Satanist, and
right, and everything's right. I know that's how you attract. That's how you attract them, isn't you? Everything they want, all the colours, all the food, and then bring them all in. That's
what about that body that was found up a tree on the Royal Estate? Do you remember that a couple of years ago? And not suspicious. I mean, if they found a body up a tree, say in your garden or my garden, you're being police custody quick. You could say, backhander or something, but the rules. The attitude was, that's where we left it,
Well, there was that famous video of that young kid seen climbing out of one of the windows at Buckingham Palace, something naked, and he fell, and that was never, oh no, it was, nothing, the police.
I don't remember that, so I missed that.
A few years ago, but there is. I don't know if the video is still around. It's probably been taken down now, but and even the picture was in all the mainstream papers of this naked young boy. He looked about 9 or 10, I think. Climbing down a drain pipe or down a sheet tied together or something, and he fell. He actually fell.
Wow.
Nobody knows what happened to him.
No, I didn't.
Down one of the windows at Buckingham Palace.
Bloody hell. Ooh. The 411 case that I was talking about is Dennis Martin. If anyone wants to look it up, just look up the case of missing boy Dennis Martin. And then they should be able to find the case for themselves.
Dennis Martin. You see, there's another thing that people don't question. We sort of accept things. I'm sort of putting my historian hat on now, but I'm not a historian, but I'm interested in history. And that is, I've brought this up before on previous programs, and that is, during World War II, I believe we were the only country in the world which evacuated children from the cities. Yeah. And the very weird thing is when these children were evacuated, they were evacuated on trains. Now, surely the military need to send troops, equipment, or all kinds of things to different parts of the country. And when a country is in a state of war, the railways are generally taken over by the military, and you can't really get a train because the military need them. So why is it when they needed to move troops around, they evacuated vast numbers of children to the countryside, so they said, and it caused psychological problems with these children. Claire Rayner, she said, she ran home and she had terrible problems and things like that.
It happens to people here, Chris, because we have docks. Most of my town, Salford, was annihilated during the bombings because we had the docks. So they bombed the docks, like mad. So lots and lots of children were evacuated out there.
I'll just switch John off for a few moments. He's just changing things around. Sorry, he'll be back, don't worry.
No, it's okay. I mean, same thing, isn't it? Do you know another case? And I'm hoping you'll know what I mean when I bring it up. It has a lot of coincidences. Is the case of Zigmund Adamska in Todmorden. Have either of you guys heard of that?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I know the one you mean. That was about 20 years ago, wasn't it? Something like that.
He left his house to go and buy some potatoes, and he completely disappeared. And they found him about 3 weeks later on top of a coal heap in a suit that was beautiful and pressed. He had some triangular burns on his neck, and he had a strange lotion or oil on him that they've never been able to identify.
Oh, they say,
yeah, they've never. Well, yeah, they say they've identified it. And he had no dust on his clothes, no dark nurse. And that night, the police officer that went out to meet him was Alan Godfrey. And he took his, the body's dead and they're there, and he's an officer. And within 2 weeks, he's in this car. He's up in Toddymore. He sees a light, and he has a whole, I'm not sure how many hours, so I'm not going to guess, a number of missing hours. And unfortunately, he was ridiculed. He was a police officer that was brave enough to say, yeah, I have seen an experience. Yeah. Well, there was an American chap in the 60s, and his name is Zigmund Adamska. And he wrote about he had this whole life, this whole extraterrestrial life off Earth. And I remember thinking, that's really strange. I wonder if they're related. Because they say this thing runs in bloodlines and things like that, don't they? And I thought, it's exactly the same name, Zigmund Adamska. Not within, but probably within about 20 years of each other.
There was a pop band in the 90s called Adamski as well.
Yeah, there wasn't there? I'm not sure if there's a connection. No. But yeah. I love that case. I mean, I've been up to Toddy, and it's not too far from me. It's only a lot more. I often think of Zigmund.
Richard D. Hall covered that case.
Yes.
He did that. Now, back in chat, should we have a little break and have a look in chat, shall we? Now we got for innovations. And that as well, or something. Okay. No, I don't get that. Am I a bit thick?
Does it refer to a previous one that you've missed or something?
Might be, yeah. Isn't obsidian?
I know what they're talking about.
The rock that never heats up, even if placed on a fire. That's Louise. That's very interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, when they use it to evoke. So that was what they were asking about the evoke. It's about you would use it to summon, whether it be a deep, whatever name you want to put on it, whether it be normally a negative thing, and you just use it to summon, and it's something to do with this rock, because there was 4 rocks outside the place that I was talking about, and one of them was this huge lump of obsidian. And I'm not 100% sure, isn't it? Lava rock, isn't it? Glass that's forming in a lava flow. I'm not
I think it is.
It's
kind of glass, isn't it? Yeah, not rock.
Yeah, no magnetic signal or anything like that. And I wondered if it was emitting some kind of energy or attracting some kind of energy, or basically whether they'd opened a doorway like Jack Parsons and never shut it. So then you've got this millennia of like bad stuff coming through kind of thing. Because Jack Parsons went out on his way to open as many portals as he could, and he was a NASA scientist,
Well, no, he was one of the founder members of NASA. We talked about this a few weeks ago, Deb. Jack Whiteside Parsons, he was another occultist, Satanist, friends with Aleister Crowley, Walt Disney, and they both, Walt Disney and Jack Parsons, were one of the 5 founder members of NASA.
Ah, right, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Well, I remember that. Yes, that's fascinating. But it's like in Cornwall, they've got you've got this radon gas which comes up. So there's also magnetic rocks, and apparently in Spain, if anybody is Spanish or has been to Spain, they can confirm this. They say in fairy tales long ago in Cornwall, because Cornwall is supposed to be a fairy tale land, and the people years ago used to rub their backs, as the Indians did in North America, up against certain rocks, and they were healing rocks. And there's a lot of people, now I'm jumping around a little bit, that believe that the pyramids were places to heal, because I never really found any bodies inside the main ones at Giza. And there was a book I'm showing my age now, in the 70s, called, do you remember that one, John, Supernature?
I do. Lyle Watson. Yeah, I read it a few times.
That's right. And we used to, you see, in the old days and primitive days when we used to use drawing boards and that in the office, we used to use razor blades to scratch things out on the drawing board, you see. On the drawing.
That book is about 2 feet from me now, Chris. That's a really coincidence.
And it shows you how to make a pyramid in there, and it sharpens razor blades.
Yes,
so being tight-fitted sods, we made one to sharpen our razor blades. It apparently worked.
It really does work. Pyramid, I'm sure it's something to do with the word fire. There's some in Bosnia.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes.
And they did this test where they sent a weather balloon up, and the higher up they went, the higher the signal went. So like it's strengthened. So clearly this pyramid is strengthening or fixing or healing something. And they went to a great deal of trouble to put them up there, you know, so they must have been incredibly important for some reason, you know, or they wouldn't have gone to all that length, you know, to build them and things. And I just think, I know we see them as tourist things now, but I think they were to do with energy and harnessing the Earth's electromagnetic, I don't get the word wrong here, mate. The electronic magnetic grid that's around the world.
That's
if you
right.
place a pyramid in certain parts of the ley line or the grid, it will increase the energy. And I wonder if they were like that. I mean, they would be healing, but could there be some kind of battery and something could
I think
draw energy from it?
It's like for focusing energy of some kind. I think the shape of the pyramid is it kind of focuses the energy, whatever the energy is. I don't understand it, but yeah,
It's
like
quite fascinating. That really is fascinating because when you think the Aztecs, you know, in South America, they had pyramids. And you got this one in Bosnia as well, which is definitely a pyramid. You can see it is, and they're trying to poo-poo it and all that. But we now go on a bit more in chat. Damon Albarn's ode to John Dee is on audio loop in a supposed satellite sent up by the freaks, as reported by the BBC.
I did not know that.
What did I? Might look.
Well, I think the key word in that sentence is it's supposed that satellite.
Supposed. Yes, it's used a lot. Supposed. Hello, DJ Beto. Now it says here to tell aliens who we are.
I think they're already walking among us, I'll be honest. Yeah.
Well, did I tell you a UFO landed in my garden and this hideous creature got out and said, "Greetings, Earthling. I have travelled 16 billion light years. Could I use your toilet, please?" Sorry, terrible joke that one, isn't it? Sorry. Now,
I don't think it even warrants the epithet joke, that one, Chris. I'm sorry.
Saw Emin the other day on a random live stream. It was God. Was it really? What, Eminem?
I don't know. It's Amen. Does he mean it was good and it's just predictive text? I would imagine he means it was good.
God.
Rather than God.
No, don't know. Let's have a look. DJ B2 Emin the other day on a random. It was good. Oh, sorry.
I knew what you meant.
You know what I mean. Gillian Morgan, I have seen ghosts on numerous occasions and believe in the afterlife.
I do not
tell you some true events that would make you think long and hard. We would like to hear them. Very interesting.
Oh, Gillian, by the way, if you're still listening there, I'm speaking in the city where you live. I won't mention it. In a couple of weeks, if you're interested, I'll email you the details if you want to come along.
DJ, I added an O. Well, good for you, mate.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
We're nothing like adding an O.
I don't think I've ever met a person that hasn't got somebody in the family or one of the friends or their own self that have a series of strange experiences, unexplained phenomena kind of thing.
Wow.
It's lots and lots of families that have stories and stuff within them. I'm just
There's one here. This is a beauty.
That's amazing.
Louise Wilcox, I was waiting outside a school for my children some years back. The telephone kept ringing in the phone box. No one answered it. So I did, and it was my mother. She had written my home number wrong.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
It's a bit like the policeman one in the office.
Yeah. Full Fiesta, laugh out loud.
I had an interesting one, Chris. I had one come up this week from a chap. You could call it your typical ghost story. Ordinary lad. He said it was about 5:30, so I needed to nip to the shop, get the kids something. He said, and I'm going to my local shop, and there's an old lady in the window, just semi-detached house there. And he said she's tapping on the window, and he said, I didn't know whether to go because of COVID. I didn't know whether to go and see what she wanted or, just ignore her. He said, but then I realised because of COVID, she may need something. He said, so I went, and I knocked on the door, and I'd seen her come away from the window, and you heard her coming down the stairs and open the door. And just another lady there that's not her. And he says, oh, I'm really sorry. I've come to see the lady in the bedroom window. And she said, what lady in the bedroom window? Where? And he points up again, and she said, oh, please just go away. At the door on him. And he said he's walking down the street, and this chap comes out and shouts him and says, look, I'm really sorry. My wife didn't mean to be rude. It's just her mum died about 2 weeks ago, and that was her bedroom. And he said, I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to say, and but when people would say, oh, that's your typical ghost story, that, you'd be amazed how many people tell me very similar stories to that.
Well, there's a coincidence here, which I'm not sure, I think John's heard it, and people at Stand in the Park, Cheshunt, have heard it. So, okay, fellas, go make a cup of tea now, and if you've heard it, but this is a true story, and I'm sorry, John, I think you've heard this. My sister, when she started work, she's much older than me, in London in the 60s, to a place called John Tan. They made John Tan safes.
Right.
And you've heard of Chubb safes, well, there was John Tan safes. And she was what is called a tracer. Now, that's a job now that does not exist. And what a tracer did is the design engineers would sketch things out with pencil, and then they'd give it to the tracer, and she would make it all nice and neat and ink it all in and do the printing and everything like that. Well, thanks to CAD, you don't have tracers. In fact, when I started work, tracers didn't really exist. They went out in about the early 70s, I think. Anyway, that shows you my sister, as I say, is much older than me. Anyway, she one lunch hour, she went downstairs, and there was a girl who was looking through papers, and she was German origin. And this girl said an amazing. My sister said, "Now, I won't give away what this girl was doing and why, because that'll give the story away. So that'll be at the end." So she said, the girl said, during World War II, at the end of the World War II, she was in Berlin, and she was a very young girl, and her mother sent her for an errand, and they could hear gunfire in the distance.
I remember this now.
Yeah, I remember this one. And this is right. And the Russians were obviously closing on one side, and the British and the Americans were closing in on the other side. And what was happening is that they thought that they were a long way away by the sound of gunfire. And when the little girl went to run the errand, the Russians or the Soviets had made a breakthrough. And when she got back to her house, it was just flat rubble. Have you heard this one, Deb?
No.
Anyway, she stood there. She was actually in shock. But luckily for her, there was a German unit that was retreating. They took pity on her and said, "Look, come with us. We're going to surrender to the Americans," because the Germans incorrectly believed that if they surrendered to the Americans, not the British, they'd be treated better. But it was the other way around. They were treated better by the British than the Americans. Americans treated them generally, a lot of the times, badly, and the British didn't so much, because they said, we've been bombing our houses and they're not going to be friendly to us, but we were. They're nice chaps, Anyway, cutting a long story short, she ended up in an orphanage in this country. She had a flat in London when she started work, and she had no family because her father had got killed on the Russian front, and I don't know about the rest of the family, but she was an orphan. And she had this urge to go to a certain place in Argentina. She couldn't understand it. She'd have dreams about it. She kept seeing it. Well, eventually she saved up her pennies, and she went to this place in Argentina, and she got really depressed because she was in this hotel. She thought, what the hell am I doing here? I've spent all this money, because in those days it cost a lot of money to go there. what am I doing? I just don't know what I'm doing in this place. And outside this hotel is a beautiful, like, I suppose it was a park or plateau where they've got these raised ponds with goldfish in and things like that with seats around there. So she thought, she's so depressed, she thought, I'll go out and sit on one of these seats. Anyway, she went out into this area and she sort of looked down, she's feeling depressed, and a woman came along and sat next to her. It was her mother.
Wow.
Now, the papers were she's trying to get her mother to Britain. Whether she ever did or not, I don't know. That's all I know about the story. So people say, please tell the rest of it, but I don't know whether she ever succeeded. So, although she should have actually gone to France and then got in a little dinghy and then got across the channel that way, she should have gone in.
Yes, she'd be fine.
Yeah, but no, seriously, that is a true story, and that is an incredible coincidence. So it was some sort of telepathy there.
Maybe.
I don't know how her mother got to Argentina, but
you get those twins, but you get
Sorry?
twins, don't you, that are born and then put out to different adopted families, and then they meet after so many years.
Yeah,
they've got
they
the same
gravitate
name.
together, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, the wife's got the same name. They drive the same car. They've made the same life decisions.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just something we don't understand because we're humans. Maybe we are connected to each other on this kind of grid. And for some people, they can tune in better to the relatives. I'm not really sure. You hear about people who get visits from their relatives before they've died, or they have that dream and they wake up and then they get the phone call that one of the relatives has died. Yeah, I think we're just maybe all connected on this special.
Oh, without a doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's another strange connection because another wartime sort of thing, sort of boy with wartime. But you've read my dad's book, John, and there was a chap that saved my dad's life, wasn't there? And I'm named after him. My name's Chris. Yeah. That's the reason why I'm named Chris. And he saved my dad's life. And after my father finished writing the book, I got a phone call out of the blue from a chap, and he said, oh, hello. He said, I don't know how he found out, but he found some advert or something, because you think about it, you publish your own book, you're not going out in the main press. I mean, it's very limited. It's very difficult to publish your own book. And I published my dad's book for him. And by some coincidence, this chap had found out from somebody else that my dad, and he said, this is a 1,000,000 chance, he said, but he said, was your dad in the Devonshire Regiment? I said, yeah. I said, 2nd Devonshire Regiment. Yeah, he said, well, no, someone called Chris, was he? I said, that was his best friend that saved his life. I'm named after him. He said, so am I. It's my uncle. It was my bit of a coincidence.
Small world.
Because I hadn't been on any media or anything like that, and he just found it by sheer accident.
Meant to be. It was meant to be.
But we lost contact after that. It's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I
love stories like that.
It's a very, very weird one, but that German one always gets me because it's telepathy, isn't it?
It's I think it's
a small world. It is a very small world. And also, I mean, in your working life and that, the amount of times you bump into the same people. Well, it's freelance, so when you're freelance, you do get around a lot to different places. And you bump into the same people time and time again, that somebody which you don't want to bump into. But should we go on to everything to add, John, for a little bit later, or shall we go back into chat?
Yeah, go back into chat.
Yeah, why not?
Some interesting
now,
stuff.
where are we? We've got a hell of a lot here. We got here Hatchy. Oh, hello, Hatchy. Hi all, love from a shed in Hampshire, crops country. That's right. By the way, I have an apology to make. I like to answer every comment that is put in underneath the video each week, because if people take the time to write something, it's politeness to always answer. I may have missed one or two, so it's been a bit busy this week, so please don't take it personally. I do apologise, but I do endeavour to answer them, because I think that's it's the right thing to do, and I enjoy answering them. I do. Now, and we've got Sean Hamer. They made a lot of movies about genetic chimera spirit creatures being in the woods in recent years too.
Yeah, I saw the Mothman prophecies. Did you see that? Deb?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Sarah Allard, there's a new person here. Hello, Sarah. Hi there. Catch you every week on this show. Keep up the interesting shows. That's very kind. Thank you. Would love to hear something on not so natural disasters, i.e. Lynmouth. Oh, yes. And Operation Columbus. Yes, the Lynmouth disaster. That was the RAF weather thing that went wrong.
An experiment, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's right, yes.
A weather experiment, yeah.
We weren't
in Cornwall, for those who are not aware of it, in the 1950s, I think, was it?
No, it's 1952, I think it was.
Well, 1952 was in the 50s, Chris.
Right? Nah, I thought you said the 1960s. Sorry. Oops. Remember, I'm a southerner. You've got to speak a bit slower for us.
Well, I know, I do make allowances for that.
Yeah, you know. We can't get Eccles cake down here. That's the problem, you see. Right, Hatchy. John D is scribing. His scribing mirror is at the British Museum.
Yeah.
Along with the largest black magic book collection owned by the modern Lizzie. Oh, yes. In the world. That's interesting. When my daughter, this is Paul Green, my daughter was at Manchester Uni, a serial killer was the rumour.
Oh, for the pusher. Yeah.
That's right. That's the pusher, yes. Yeah. And then we got DJ B2. Hatchy, I'm in Hants too. Well, good for you. I'm in Hertfordshire. Now, Hatchy, Chris, it would be nice if you and John got Chris Everard on for a chat about the death of Diana. He's very good. He's a bit high profile, I think. I don't think
he'd come on, Hatchy, because he doesn't talk to us mere mortals, I'm afraid, Chris.
No.
He's drunk for that.
That's right. Could give it a try. Ralph Winter, evening, folks. What do you think? Lines, a note from parents. He is a bit late. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Actually, DJ, what are we answering there?
I think it means what part of
DJ, the missing stuff is disturbing. Yes, it is. I actually heard, I've told John this, fairy music, not fairy music, but sort of one night when I was coming back from, where was I? I was in Cambridgeshire. I was going towards Royston, and it goes from flat to then the Hertfordshire hilliness, and it's a dramatic change in scenery. And I was going through the flat part, which is not quite Fenlands, and it was New Year's Eve around about that time. This was in the 1990s. And I could hear this sort of, it was beautiful music. You know, when you hear Elizabethan music, that's what I think.
Yeah.
But I don't like Elizabethan music, but this was something different. It was organic. But if I put a recorder on, it wouldn't pick it up. It was
I get it. Yeah.
in the background. And I thought it was the wind, but it was a still night. And it's a beautiful moonlit night, stars. And I was driving and I thought, this is uncanny. So I checked the windows, they were closed, and it wasn't that cold, even though it was New Year's Day era. It was, it was a bit mild. So eventually I actually stopped the car, switched the engine off, got out and walked. It was in a lay-by, sort of away from my car. I could still hear it.
Right.
I looked around and I couldn't see any lights, because normally you see lights of farmhouses. This is weird. So anyway, there wasn't any cars on the road because, it's early hours. So I got back in the car. And when I saw the lights of, there's a main road that goes from Royston right the way through to Baldock. Is it 505? One of those. I can't remember it. When I saw the lights, the music stopped immediately. And I thought, this is weird. So I stopped my car and I reversed. And I thought, I wonder if the music will start again. It didn't. It was weird. Now, it could have been something, wind hitting my car, but then if it was, why could I still hear it when I stopped the car and got out?
Yeah, that's it. And it was rhythmic.
Yeah.
You're describing it as music, so that suggests to me there was some kind of harmony or melody.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it sounded really sort of organic, all folksy, you know. Now we got here Louise Wilcox. There is no such thing as coincidence. The universe is doing its job. The late, great Dave Starbuck gave me that advice. He says, there's no such thing as a coincidence. And I think he was the, shall we say, the forerunner of all this. In the early 90s, he started Revelation Tapes, and he sent tapes of what's going on before the internet. So he was years ahead of his time. And he was an old journalist. And boy, didn't he know his stuff. Self-employed. So, you know. Right, we've got here, Hachi. I'm in a shed in Bittern. Are you really? Well, we all have our problems. It's the Urban Stealth Camper Van Band. Evening all. Hello, Brett. How are you, mate? Oh, I've known for you for a long time. By the way, he's a brilliant artist. And if you want any drawings done or paintings, go to the Urban Stealth Camper Van Man.
I will be subscribing. I love he's living my dream life. I would love to get a van and just go and investigate phenomena all over the UK. You know, that's what we're building for, me and my husband.
I'd love
to get
in a camper van and just escape all this bloody madness that's going on.
I agree with you.
When we do
that, yeah.
We put free meets on for people across the country. So I've just done one this weekend at Cannock Chase. So what we do is we just choose an area where it's really easy to park and people can get out, and we get a brew on and we have a packed lunch and we have a drink, just coffee and tea, and everybody talks about their weird experience.
Oh, that's fantastic.
If you're ever over in East Yorkshire, give us a shout.
Yeah, honestly, we've done quite a few of them now. And most people say at the end of it, oh, it's really nice to just talk to like-minded people. Yeah. You know, you can talk about UFOs, you can talk about strangeness. Nobody's going to ridicule you. So it's just like me and you guys chatting. And we just do that. So I would love to be able to go further and further. You know,
same here. Now, I've actually been looking around, because the secret is don't buy a camper van, get a van and convert it, because I should say it's park around areas which is not touristy. And industrial areas and things, you know, that's the best thing, and that's what I want. That's really what I want to do.
Lots of rural places as well you could stay. Yeah. Lots and lots of woodlands where you could just pull up and stay at the side of the river.
Yeah,
you know.
That's illegal.
Yeah, but you know,
we're going to find you. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they've stopped wild camping now, haven't they?
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I've taken quite a lot of. I'm really into the van life culture, but even before that, van lifers are out in the wilds, are out there, and they're seeing things that we town folk are not seeing. So I've got quite a lot of strange paranormal reports of things moving around the van, or banging on side of the van, or on the top of the van. Or one poor woman had what she described as a troglodyte face that was up against the window when she was stealth camping, and Linnock in Wales. Yeah, Snowdonia's. Just quite a few wild camping places you go to in the Snowdonian National Park if you're careful. Yeah. And I was speaking to a lady who'd stayed over there, and she said the reason she got up was the weather was so bad she was worried. And she said, I just thought, I'm just going to drive into Bangor and I'll go into one of the car parks there and stay there. And as she put a light on, she saw this figure. She said it was about 8 foot tall, all black in colour. So it could have been anything. It was just, she said it was just, she's seen it as she put the lights on, and it ran straight up to where the lake is. But it absolutely terrified her. So then I started looking for other van lifers who'd had, strange experiences. And there's thousands of them. There's so many of them. Yeah. When you start looking into them, if anyone's interested, go and have a look on my channel. There are so many scary reports on there.
What is your channel?
It's just my name, just Deborah Hatswell.
Deborah Hatswell. I'll tell you something. Don't you think that's a bit strange that out of all the thousands, perhaps millions of websites, you're actually subscribed to the same one as I am? with the urban stealth camper van bags.
Oh, do they?
Because you know he's a southerner, he's from my neck of the woods, so we both got the same or similar accent.
They have good stories. They have good stories to tell the van lifers as well. You know, they're out there and they're seeing things and like, oh yeah, that's that. So you never know. We might end up at a campsite together, Chris, and we could have a break.
We might well do. And there's a couple of my friends over in the Netherlands. I'm hoping to have them on here soon, and they live permanently in a van. And they had some creep looking in their van the other night. Yes. A prowler looking in, which is not a nice experience. A peeping Tom. So there we go. But that's isn't that a coincidence? You're subscribed to the same person, but he's a good egg. The Urban Stealth Camper Van. Thanks, mate. You bring a lot of happiness to people with your paintings. And actually, what I was going to say, has you ever thought of painting things like sundials? Now, that's something, you have to give it a bit of a thought, because I make sundials. Anyway, now we've got here, I heard there has been a disappearance on Disney cruises. Yeah. And that's from Paul Green.
Happens all the time, Paul. Yeah, Disney is a hotbed of disappearing children, because that's what it was set up for, to abduct children. Something like ridiculous, like 180,000 children a year go missing in America. 180,000.
Well, what about during the war with the refugee children being evacuated? A lot of them went missing.
Oh, no, yeah.
Is it talking the Polish? I spoke to a lady in Poland who's done a lot of research, and this entire families where the children have gone pre-war, so in the 1930s, something like that. And there's this huge local tale, really, of what they call the wolf people. So they've kind of taken them down into military bases, and then you end up with these strange half dog, half humanized creatures. And for anyone who says that's absolutely cuckoo, Mussolini did it. A chap in Russia did the same thing, actually impregnated a female with chimp DNA to see if it would, I can't think of his name, Stalin. Stalin did the same thing. So those stories
with two heads, didn't they? Medical experiments.
Yeah, like super soldiers. Yeah.
Well, of course it wouldn't work. You can't impregnate a human with chimp DNA. I mean, it's just not possible. I mean, this is one of the arguments for evolution, which makes me laugh. Actually, they said, well, chimp DNA is 98% similar to human DNA, but what they don't tell you is that the DNA of a banana is also 98% similar to a human.
Yeah, that's the yeah. It's
we eat a banana every day. Now, Sarah Allard, the child from Palace Window, very distressing tourist video. An official account states they were filming an advert.
At the Palace?
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Can you spell something? It's a cat. Don't know. I think that's bullshit. Actually, what an advert.
It's not what you said, Sarah. I don't think it means. It means that the official explanation was bullshit, not what you were saying.
Yeah, sorry, I came over wrong. The information that they gave was bullshit, not what you said. I'm terribly sorry, Sarah. I won't be rude. She's probably subscribed. Oh, that's shot. No, sorry, Sarah. No, what I meant is what they said, the official version. Okay. DJB2, I used to be an investigator for an insurance company. Now, I bet you've got a few stories to tell there. And Tony, this is Jobby Dodger. Tony is a great English serial killer film. He murders the TV license man.
I know he feels.
Now, we got here, DJ, good artery shop in Ferrum. Why, it's good. It says here, Louise Wilcox, a death can never be suspicious when the murderer has state protection. Yes.
Sanaga was an ambassador's son. The chap who did the 140 assaults is actually an ambassador's son. So, he will do a very small prison sentence in England, and then you will be sent over to the Philippines. He do about 8 months, and that'll be it. He'll be out again, doing what he wants.
Oh, that is the law for everybody else. Because I often wonder whether these people, I've got to be very careful what I say now. I just said put on it. These people who are very famous, I won't mention any names, and I'll be very careful what I say. Possibility, allegedly, I believe, it could be a sort of bit of blackmail. You know, we'll make you famous providing you do what we tell you. You know, you just wonder that. But I better not say any more. That's for the naughty show. Right, here we go. Hachi. We used to watch Christopher Lee as Dr. Fu Manchu. He's transformed like Doctor Who, laugh out loud, into a billy goat called Gates. Yes. Actually, I never really went much on Christopher Lee. I think Peter Cushing was a genius actor, but he was a genius actor because he never made a big deal of it. And these people that are good don't make a big deal of it. Right. Pyramids on ley lines, lots of hinges too. Yes, because there's Woodhenge up in Norfolk, isn't there?
Another coincidence. Small coincidence. I studied ley lines for a number of years, but I worked with this chap called Mick McLaren who knows them like the back of his hand. And it was only on speaking to him that I realised that my maiden name is Cross Ley. Spelled cross ley, as in crossed ley line.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a bit of a coincidence. That's a bit coincident. Yeah, but there's nodes. They reckon there's nodes on the ley lines. It's not just this one singular piece of energy running. It's spider webs out. In some areas it's higher, in some areas it's lower. And where you get the areas of high energy, you get missing time events, paranormal events in the sense that you would see figures and things like that, like black hooded figures or something. And maybe it's just the energy that's playing with your mind. I mean, it's not what I believe. I believe that it's emitting some kind of energy, and certain humans can pick up on it, kind of thing. So just some very strange areas of the UK where you have clusters of phenomena like Cannock Chase, and I would imagine most of you have heard of Cannock. Rendlesham.
Yes, Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah.
And also Royston in Hertfordshire. Now, Royston in Hertfordshire, that's a crossroads of two Roman roads. And the Romans used to bury their dead, apparently. Now, my sister and brother-in-law lived at Royston. I kind of like Royston. But there's the road, the Newmarket Road, which goes from Royston to Newmarket. And that's on a ley line. I found something about East Anglia I find a bit creepy. I don't know quite what it is about the area. My grandfather he used to get was a bilious attack, but it didn't agree with it, the air. And my mother didn't like it much. And there was something about East Anglia doesn't do much for me, but it is a very strange place. It's a very odd place. Sorry?
It's a very flat place, I know that.
Oh, it's as flat as a pancake. Blimey.
Yeah, from the north, it's a strange area. The Fens, everything's uphill in the north, or downhill, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I like hilly country. I don't do flat. It's just. I mean, I've been to Lincolnshire. Yeah. You drive for miles and miles. Of just. Whoops! I knocked my microphone. Oh, that's it. I've knocked my microphone over as well. But no, it's just miles and miles and nothing. And I've insulted everybody from Lincolnshire now. So I'm terribly sorry. Oh. No, this is, but, now let's have a look here. We got here Thor the Atlantean invented pyramids. Thoth. Sorry, not Thor. Thoth.
Thoth. I don't know.
Was it Thor with a hair lip? Thoth. Jobby, apparently Thoth is alive and well. So if Elvis Presley, he works in Tesco's. Now, Yorkshire Rose. Hello, Yorkshire Rose. Not in Yorkshire at the moment, I hasten to add. There is a natural supplement manufacturer near me where the stock is kept under pyramids before shipping, supposedly to activate the ingredients. That's interesting.
Yeah. In the olden days we used to farm by the moon and the weather. We don't do that now, but there'd be certain areas where they would only plant on a certain moon, and it worked because I think we were just connected to the ebb and flow of the earth back then. Didn't have all this distraction around us and things like that. I mean, I'm with John. You know, to me, we're living in a simulation, but it's probably that's for another show, isn't it? But yeah, I could go back to that.
On the thin edge of reality, and that's what the was it that chap Fortean Times?
Yes, yeah, thin edge of reality.
Yes, and now let's have a look down here. I don't know if you can read it. A million disgruntled. What we got here? Oh, sorry, I've jumped in. I mean, what other power force could our world leaders be more frightened of? And it says here, a million disgruntled taxpayers. Yes, I'd agree.
Yeah.
A million disgruntled anti-vaxxers.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just an entire population that's just done with being fed lies. I'm done. You know, no, I'm done.
I think we might do a naughty program on, shall we say, William's Toxic Arm Brew. I think we'll call it that. Has the klaxon horns gone off at YouTube yet? No, I think we might be safe. Jobby, you might be right. Maybe thinking job done.
Well, actually, what's the word that I use? The word that I use is the word that they use all the time, isn't it? It's not like we're you know, not like I was actually saying something that they don't approve of. That.
Yorkshire Rose. Anyone had a near-death experience?
No, I've interviewed people who've had them, but I've not had them. No.
No. Mind you, if you see the government, they have a near-life experience.
I don't believe it. I think you're exaggerating.
Tony Blair. Is he alive? You know, are you there? We have a seance to get through to it.
There are a number of actual real scientific experiments that they've gone in with near-death experiences, and there's a number of hospitals across the world that have hidden signs that if you were to rise out of your body, you would be able to see. And there's some really documented cases where people put them to peer groups, really serious doctors who were interested in this phenomenon of people having a near-death experience while they're being operated upon. And a number of people have been able to tell them what the sign was above the lights, and they'd no way they'd know. One woman described that she came out of her body and she could see on one of the windowsills of the hospital there was a blue shoe. And they went and looked, and there was a blue shoe, and she'd never moved out of the operating theatre.
Mm-hmm.
That is.
I've got a book that's really good if anybody's interested in this kind of thing, called Proof of Heaven, and it's about an American doctor who was a staunch atheist, you know, materialist. He didn't believe in anything outside the mainstream. You know, he was a, you know, we follow science kind of guy. And he had a near-death experience, and it just changed his life. And he actually gives a vivid account of what happens when he actually went to heaven.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really good. It's a very good book. Is it fine?
Well, I interviewed Michael Rose.
Right, I've written it down.
A little bit over Proof of Heaven.
Proof of Heaven.
That's interesting.
Eben Alexander.
Have you heard of Michael Rose?
No.
I did an interview with him. If you go on to FoghamHallRadio.com and go on the long radio stations, I interviewed him via the telephone. The sound is not that good, and it was just soon after my father passed away. So I don't personally think I did a very good interview because I was still suffering from that trauma. But Michaal Rose did an interview, and he said there's scientific evidence of life after death, and it's a chap called Lodge. And if people say who made the first radio transmission, people say Marconi. No, it wasn't. It's a chap called Lodge.
Trying to speak to spirit.
Sorry?
Was he trying to speak to spirit?
I don't know. I can't. I'd have to listen to the radio program again. It's over 10 years ago. But he was actually he did scientific experiments and he did discover there is life. And apparently, you were not allowed to speak about this until the 1990s on mainstream media. And Michael Rose got the law changed. It was against the law to speak about the scientific evidence for life after death. So that is quite interesting that he got that law changed. So, but I'll have to listen to that again, you know. But here we go. It says, this is Paul Green, saw a shadow figure behind a boy in another class in secondary school. 2 days later, his dad found him dead when he got home from work. My word. Well, have you heard the one about this is one I heard. My brother-in-law worked with a chap who came from a place called Sandy in Bedfordshire. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Sandy in Bedfordshire.
You do it on the A1. You go down the A. You go through the A. Yeah.
You've forever seen signs. Sandy, 30 miles. Then 10 miles down the road, Sandy, 29 miles. Sandy, 6 miles. And all this sort of.
It's where the headquarters of the RSPB is, isn't it?
That's right. And everything's painted in green paint. Shouldn't say this. There's a lot of people that the results of close cousins marrying. If you get what I mean. And anyway, he was a BBC sound engineer. Had a daughter, a little baby girl, and she was caught at night, and she started during the day singing strange tunes.
Right.
And they found the toys were moved around her room. This is strange. And they found out these tunes were from the Victorian era. And they said, "Where'd you get these from?" And she said, "It's the lady with the big eyes that sits in the corner."
Yeah.
And this went on, and they got these people that get through to spirits and things. I can't think of the name, but they got one of these,
like a medium or a psychic.
Medium, or somebody like that in, and she said, "Don't worry, this spirit will not do your child any harm. She's a lovely Victorian lady that loved children. Just leave it be. She's perfectly safe, perfectly happy. Just leave it." And she did. And this little girl grew up knowing all these Victorian tunes that she could have never, because she couldn't read and write at that age.
No.
And she just said, the lady with the big eyes that sat in the corner. It was quite, and that was and Sandy's a very haunted place. It's a very weird place, I know that. But we got here, my word, we're coming up to our time now. We got here, excuse me if I don't read all your comments out, because there are so many. Now we got here, "I believe we are not just flesh and blood, as our inner spirits are our true inner being, makes us the person we are. Good or bad?" I 100% agree with you there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it 24 ounces? When you die, you weigh 24 ounces less? I probably got it wrong. It might be 21, 22. But everybody who dies has a 24 ounces missing from them. And is that soul? The real
yeah. You've got a good point there. It says, Paul Hargreaves, "Our comments turned off on," I guess that's YouTube. Well, actually, when this program finishes, YouTube do switch them off, but they come on back on again when after a couple of hours. So don't worry. It's not my doing. It's YouTube's doing. Now we got here Yorkshire Rose, Haji. "I was given the choice and came back for my parents."
Oh,
that's interesting. Oh, isn't that sweet? And that's nice. That is. And she never met Adolf then. Uncle Adolf.
No, yeah.
Julie Morgan, "Nothing like good minds come together." Haji. And now we got here Yorkshire Rose. "My hubby did at 19 years old." This is Louise Wilcox. "Since then, he has been able to foretell some things. He has told me twice not to go on separate train journeys, both of which had fatal crashes." Something similar happened to my cousin, actually. He was due to, during the war, be shipped to America because he was very young. He's about 10, I think. And he was packed, ready to go. And his mother said, "Don't. I've had a premonition." The ship sunk. And a lot of children were killed. And the second time, he was in the Merchant Navy. And his future wife was from Northern Ireland. And he was due to catch a ship from, I think, is it Liverpool, something like that, over to Northern Ireland for a naughty weekend. No, they were going to play chess for the weekend, I think. Something like that. I'm very innocent.
That is a naughty weekend playing.
Naughty weekend, you know.
Want to do that, would you?
That's right, And I think it was naughty because it didn't turn the pieces. Anyway, it's a dirty weekend, so it's probably, I don't know, perhaps they didn't have a bath that weekend. Anyway, he decided something told him not to go on this ship, and that sunk and all.
There's a lot of stories like that surrounding the Titanic as well.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing
about it.
Yeah,
I was thinking.
And even people who were on it had a premonition. Like there's one.
A number of 911 victims, weren't there? There were a number of people who predicted 911 before it happened. You know,
and there were the Titanic one. The lady who I think she was only like a young kid. She was one of the longest surviving Titanic victims, and she told the story about it. And she said that her mother, as soon as they found out that they were going on the Titanic, they were emigrating to America or Canada, and she had these premonitions all the time about the ship sinking, and she wouldn't go to sleep at night. She was so terrified. So she sat up all night and slept during the day for some strange reason. And obviously it came true. The ship sank and she lost her husband, but her and the little girl survived.
That's right.
We've all had that feeling though that something's going to happen. We all have it, don't we? It kind of hangs over you. The shoe to drop. I call it our peripheral brain. It's as if we notice so much more around us than we actually process, if you get what I mean. Because you
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
See in this bit, there's a lot of peripheral stuff going on around you. And we're taught not to trust our gut. We're taught to question everything, you know, anything that's strange or abnormal. But I really believe in trusting your gut, in that feeling.
I 100% agree with that, because you're right, we are trained not to. Because, but I also think, you know, out of all the mammals, we are blind, we're deaf, we're the most puniest out of the lot, because
we don't work on this planet. We don't work. We need a house, we need a coat, we need a car. Everything else on the planet is acclimatized and adapted, except for us humans, you know.
To hunt, we have to make weapons to hunt. We can't hunt naturally. We are a very, very weird breed, basically, because you look at a dog, will sort of look at something and go and follow it, but we can't see or hear it.
Yeah.
And there's lots of things. I know that budgerigars, they can see. I believe they can see infrared or something, but they can see far better than us, and their eyesight is pretty awful, pretty ropey. And I think it was it Crick, the bloke, one of the blokes that discovered DNA, said that. Yeah, that's right. Lots of our something has tampered with it, because it's neatly cut in certain areas. And why is it we only use 10% of our brain?
Well, we only use part of our DNA, as well as a huge strand of it called junk DNA. Junk DNA.
You know.
Yeah, as if. I mean, you know, it's just.
Have you ever listened to Lloyd Pye, John?
I have.
Yeah, I love his lectures. So if anyone out there who wants to listen to just this, where do we come from? What is the missing link?
He's dead now, isn't he? Poor guy.
Yeah, look up Lloyd Pye. Yeah.
He wrote something. What was it? Everything you ever believed
is wrong.
Not true. Is wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong. You know,
I think he was taken out. I
would imagine so, yeah. But one of the simplest things that he says is that we forget we're made from the stars. We're all carbon. Every person walking on this earth is from the solar system. You know,
carbon neutral. Oops.
Yeah. Well, we're all
into Naughty Channel area.
everything on Earth is a carbon-based life form, but you can see their evolution. There's a big gap. Yeah. We've gone from being a complete monkey to driving a car in a little blip of time, and it's not.
I've been here before. We've met people before. Yeah. And have you noticed that you sometimes warm to people, and there's some people who go, they turn you off. I've worked with loads and loads and loads of people. And there's some you instantly warm to, and others you think, bloody hell. There's something not quite, And I call that. There's some people I call a bit pervy, body people I call them, and they're always sort of weird, very weird. I've noticed. I just call them body people because they're obsessed with the. It's like the NHS is marvellous. I like having this check, that check, something shoved in my ear hole, and all this sort of stuff.
Me bunions.
Creepy. But, no, there are a lot of creepy people around nowadays. Now let's have a look. We've got a load here, which please accept my apologies. Don't take it personally. I can't read them all out. And I think we're an hour and a half. Shall we wind things up now? Is that okay? Is that all right, John?
I think we need to. Yeah, an hour and a half is about the limit, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. There's some book here written by some geezer. I've never heard of him before. You know, I don't know. He's some bloke.
Very funny.
Very good book. I'm reading it very slowly because I'm a very slow reader, and I don't read at night. I read during the day. So
even though it's saying myself, Chris, that is my favourite book out of all the ones that I've read, and it's probably so.
It really is.
You know why I think it is? It's because I think I got the wrong spotlight. It says a chilling expose of the banking industry, and it sounds so deadly dull and boring, doesn't it? But that doesn't cover a hundredth of it. No, what it really is about, it's about how the banking industry has been able to generate money from thin air, and therefore it's been able to fund everything that's been going on in the last 200, 300 years.
We have to do a show on that. We have to do a show on that. Yeah.
Naughty program show. Now you'll get that. Oh, by the way, I better, whilst we're doing the John bit, hang on, where are you? Did you want bump, dump, dump? I've got you. Oh dear, you're here somewhere. Hang on a moment. Here we go. Any moment now. Here he is. There's John's Gmail, you see, and there's his website. You can find out all about the other books as well. So that's that bit. So we got John's bit there. Yourself, Deb. What, you've got a book?
Yeah, just a childhood witness of paranormal creatures.
Lift it up a little bit higher so we can see the, that's it, and over a bit. That's it, lovely.
So you can see it.
Well, and website.
You might not, but if you've got a really rainy day when you've got nothing to do, just pop my name into Amazon. You never know.
So, Deborah Hatswell, Amazon, and I've also you've run the hang on, I wrote it down here because I've got
BBR Investigations. I run. It's actually, if anyone's interested in it, what we do is we're a volunteer organisation and we're all across the UK. And if you're interested in like UFOs or the paranormal or the cryptid subjects or just the unexplained, and you want to meet like-minded people, just get in touch by my email or just stick Debbie Hatswell in Google and I'll pop up and I'll sign you up. And if you're up for it and a case comes in your area, then I probably would ask you if you'd go and investigate it for me.
Well, it just leaves me to say my website is, flick along the bottom, is fockhamhallradio.com. Yes, and actually, it's the only country in the world where soon you'll be able to download its currency. So if you're a bit short of you, Bob, you can download some notes. That's good, isn't it? Not me. And you'll be able to download a passport as well.
No,
that's not bad. So I'm going to try and have a challenge to see when people say any idea, you can show the Fockham Hall passport. Because when people come up to you, I did try it once. When they say, "Excuse me, I haven't got a obedience muzzle." Terribly sorry, I've got diplomatic immunity. What? I can get tapped to that.
A couple of times I've said, and it's not very nice to people who wear them, I know, but I've said it anyway. I'd say I'm exempt on the grounds of intelligence.
I say no hablo inglés. Gets you out of everything. That no hablo inglés.
You're sorry. Well, you're what? I didn't catch that. You're.
No, I say no hablo inglés. Yeah, that shuts them up. They leave you alone then.
Anyway, the only Lancastrian Spaniard in the country.
I could have done Manuel. Was it? Thank you very much for joining us tonight, John, Deb,
pleasure.
And also everybody in the comments section. We've had some real crackers tonight, and we will read through your comments after the program. Don't you worry. Thank you very much, and please join us same time next week, 8 o'clock. And well, coming up, we've got some interesting stuff, and we're hoping to do, it's in the planning session, and that is a naughty show. But you won't be able to see it on YouTube for obvious reasons, because we're going to talk about naughty things. And we may talk about, things that involve, hang on, I'll show you some photographs, things that involve this specimen and things like that. So we better not sort of, but we get booted off of. So what our plan is we will actually do it, load it to BitChute or Odyssey, and then do the sound version, because it's too big to put onto my website. So you'll be able to hear it on the website, download it and hear it on the website. And there it is. Anyway, above all, best thing, have a laugh. That's the best tonic of the lot. And I'll see you next week. Thank you very much. And sorry I haven't been able to read everybody's chat. Good night.